Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Tony Kitchens, and you're dialing in from Atlanta, Georgia, aren't you, Tony? And we're going to be talking about how to prepare for entrepreneurial life. So we're going to be talking about all things entrepreneurial, how to set up a business, and we're going to look at, well, Tony's going to share his experience with us. So Tony, tell people where they can get hold of you.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Tim.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here. People can find me on my website, which is tonyrkitchens.com. All of the links to social are at the bottom.
And you have a book as well, don't you?
I do. The Gift of Pain. I wrote it last year, and it's a memoir. It's a long book, 340 something pages, but a lot of information though.
Right. And where can people find that? Is that on Amazon or?
They can find it on Amazon. There's a link to the book in the upper right-hand corner of my website, and people can find it at giftofpainbook.com as well.
Excellent, excellent. So, Tony, you've been an entrepreneur. You've been an entrepreneur for years. How long is that? Was it 30 years or 20 years or
32 years this year.
32 years?
And I'm 51 years old. So the majority of my life, I've been dealing with payroll, HR.
So you must have started work while you were still in the being rocked in a cradle or something. You must have been.
It feels like it, but at least I can still smile. So that tells you that the long journey is overall, it's a good journey.
Good. So, in terms of, let's pick up a scenario. So I'm currently in a corporate role, and I'm thinking I'm going to start a job. What should I do?
Going from corporate world to business, it can be a very challenging leap. In my case, it was a little different because I was working for a small business at the time, and they happened to be business partners with IBM, which at
Right.
that point was like the Amazon of today, the
Yes.
Apple of today.
Yeah.
And fortunately, a man named George Gower, who's a mentor of mine, found me. He worked at IBM, and he found me on a project that we worked on together. And he said, "Hey," he used to call me T-Man. He said, "Hey, T-Man, you want to work at IBM?" I said, "Of course I do." And he made the transition really easy for me because he helped me come to IBM. I worked there for about a year, but in the meantime, George and I were trying to figure out how to start a business,
Right.
how he can help me start a business and become a business partner with IBM.
I
So
see.
there
Right.
was a leap, but it was a shorter leap than going to a place where I didn't have any contacts.
So in a way, by going and work at IBM for a year, you kind of got to understand what was going on, and it gave you an understanding and a network, or part of a network.
It did, absolutely. I mean, the key to that was having a mentor.
Mm.
And he wasn't a mentor necessarily in a formal sense, but he was a person who was at a place that I was looking to go. And he helped me. But before he could help me, I had to raise my hand and say I needed help. And
Right.
that's the key.
Yes.
Is, he saw me and I said, "Hey, I'm hungry. I want to learn everything that I can learn.
Mm.
I want to be, everything that I can be in this space." And he saw that I was dedicated because I showed up early, I stayed late. And he said, "No problem, I'll help you out." And I followed his direction to the letter. And I think that's another important lesson is when you reach out to someone for help,
Yes.
especially mentors, you have to follow the guidance.
Yes. So the thing that, so I think the learning there is there to put your hand up and say rather than kind of expect people to come to you.
Exactly. Nobody knows what dreams you have or goals you have unless you let them know. And nobody's a rocket science so they can figure it out. You have to be vocal.
And also the fact that you had a mentor and someone that could actually help you, which meant you had someone to talk to. So I have a business partner, and I know that if we have a bad day, we've got each other to basically ring up and say, "I'm having a bad day." And it for me, getting through being an entrepreneur, that is a fantastic thing. I think if I was by myself, I wouldn't have that.
You're exactly right. But here's the thing, Tim. Over the course of many years being in business, you'll find other people who you can call friends and mentors.
Yes.
So I've developed relationships over the years with other presidents, other CEOs, founders of businesses, because you happen to be in the same room with these people. And what you find, even though many of them were competitors, we literally competed against each other. But more important than that, we were able to call each other and say, hey, here's something that I'm dealing with. Have you experienced that before? Oh, yeah, that's easy. Do these three things.
Yeah.
And they'll lean on your shoulders, you'll lean on their shoulders.
Mm.
And what you find is people are more willing to help, I think, than society today believes.
Yes, I do. And a part of that is actually reaching out, and contacting the people, and also being grateful and empathetic and that with the people as well. So
Exactly. Worst thing you could do to someone giving you advice is waste their time.
yes.
They give you advice. 6 months later, you go back to them for the same advice. And good luck, because they're not going to help you much longer than that.
I was giving some training and coaching this morning, and it's a joy training and coaching these people, because they just suck up knowledge, and there's no it's no argument. It's they basically suck it up, and then they go away and they go, yeah, this is how it works, and then they come back and actually they show it to you. You said it was only this high, well, I can get it this high, and it's such a joy watching that.
And you feed off of their energy as well.
Yeah. Oh yes. I mean, I came out of the training and coaching with more energy than I went in. It was amazing.
Yeah. I love being around people who have that mentality that they want to push themselves further than they ever believe, especially in business, because business is very challenging, as most industries are. But the thing is when you find people who can really dream big, then they'll have a level of creativity that's unseen. You'll be able to share in that. And at the end of the day, you guys will come out with just so many great ideas. And then the next thing is they're just revved up to execute. They're ready to go, and they'll take action. And it's just such an exciting process to see people go from idea, from concept to execution.
So in terms of so I'm in corporate, and I've found someone that I can trust, and we're going to come up with an idea. How do we approach that? What's the best way to do it?
I think the first thing to realize is nothing that you can create today hasn't been created before.
Yep.
So when you understand that, then it gives you a little bit of comfort to know that there is already a blueprint in place. There is a roadmap in place for what you're trying to do. So the first thing I would do is look at who's successful in that space. And the good thing about today, as opposed to when I started my business, there was no such thing as the internet as we know it today. So everything was picking up the phone and calling people. But today, if you see someone with a successful business in the space that you're looking to get into, reach out. I mean, you have 1,000 ways to connect with people today, and just be open and vulnerable enough to say, hey, my name is such and such. I love what you're doing. I want to learn more about that space. Maybe we'll compete one day, but that's not my goal today. But can we spend 15 minutes together on the phone or Zoom or in person? I just want to understand your mindset, your mentality, how I go from where I am today to where you are or where you've been. And that conversation will become probably the first focal point in a long-term relationship.
Lovely.
Because again, they're going to feed off of you as well. They're going to remember what it was like when they first started. And they're going to say, you know what, this is good energy. Now I remember why I'm doing this.
And that's a lovely positive thing, Tony. And I think, and I echo that. And I think it's great that people they shouldn't be afraid of reaching out, and getting counsel from people, because there are people that have, like yourself, that have been running businesses for years and have an awful lot of experience. and you can help and serve them. But I'm going to take the conversation negative. Entrepreneurship is difficult, isn't it?
Absolutely. It is. The best way that I can describe it is it's a 24-hour endeavor. There is never such a thing called balance. Either you're going to be all in on the family life some days and all in on the business side some days. The responsibilities that you have never go away.
Mm.
I've been all around the world. And as much as you push aside the daily operations, even when you're on vacation, you still have a sense that there is a responsibility back home that ultimately is going to lie at your feet, good or bad.
Yeah.
And that when you go on vacation or you're away from the office, that responsibility never goes away. It's 24 hours. People that I know who have jobs 9 to 5, they can get off work at 5 o'clock or whatever time their end time is, and they can literally not think about work until the next day.
Yes.
With entrepreneurship, it's a 24-hour a day responsibility, even more so than a privilege, because you have the responsibility of payroll, of hiring and firing people, contracts. You have so many responsibilities that what happens is you become this hamster on this wheel and you can't stop because you have so many more responsibilities than just doing the work that you started out to do.
Mm.
Right. And if people don't understand that going in, they won't succeed. They won't have longevity because a lot of people may think they want to be an entrepreneur because they want their own time. They want to control how much money they make. And those are benefits of a well-established company. You have to grow to that point. Nowadays, you see people want to start an LLC because they heard that you can buy a car in your LLC name. So the first thing they do is they file paperwork and then they go get a vehicle. You don't saddle a company with debt the first week you're in business, right? This is the non-glorious side. This is the challenging side that you're talking about. And when employees on the 15th and 30th are expecting a paycheck, what I know from most business owners, multi-million dollar year businesses, they're hoping and praying the week before payroll that the receivables, the amount of money that comes in that they're owed, comes in on time
Yep.
for them to be able to make payroll.
Yep.
And that's a terrifying thing.
It is. It
Small
is.
business or large business.
Yep. My business partner Adam Gray tells a story. It's probably an urban myth, but it's very true that um, there was a person who was amazing at making cupcakes. And someone says, "You're so amazing at making cupcakes. Why are you working at this bakery? Why don't you set up by yourself and set up your own cupcake business?" So this person says, "Yeah, that's a really good idea." So she goes off and sets up her own cupcake business. But she finds that when she worked at the bakery, she was making cupcakes 80% of the time, which is what she enjoyed. When she set up her own company, she found that she was only making cupcakes 20% of the time because she was having to work out how to sell them, how to market them. Then she had taken somebody out on, and she had to deal, and so it all often entrepreneurship sounds very romantic, but you do have to deal with lots of difficult things and have difficult conversations with difficult people, there's bad things as well as good things.
Yeah. So that's not an urban myth. That sounds like the past 32 years of my life,
Yes.
right? You can sit down with friends who aren't business owners, and it just seems like the most fantastic thing that you go to work, you do what you do at work, you get paid for it, and then you're off the clock. And there are some days I've sat down with friends and people that I've met over time, and I'm just kind of amazed because I'm thinking, man, that sounds really nice to be able to do that. The urban myth that you can start a business and you're going to do or deliver the product or service that you started out is a myth, because you go from practitioner doing all of the work up front, and then probably sooner than later, you're not doing any of it anymore. You've had to hire people and give them a process, a blueprint to sell those baked goods or services that the company provides. And your primary role after you've been in business for a certain period of time is business development.
Yep.
Your job is to go out and find partnerships, to find new clients, because that's the lifeblood of a company. It's not the income, as most people think, the money. It's really new relationships and nurturing existing relationships. So you as a business owner, when you start, you're doing the work, but you evolve into an owner, you evolve into a CEO, and the roles are completely different. I ran a tech company, and it takes my son to tell you that I would have the same phone for 5, 6 years. He's like, "Why don't you upgrade, Dad?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to go through all of that. All that tech garbage. I don't want to deal with that." You're like, "But you own a tech company." Yeah, but I don't like tech anymore.
So,
Right? I got good at managing and running a business and getting new clients. I was so far away from tech. I mean, so far away from tech. But that's what happens, though. There's an evolution
so how do you stay motivated as an
in
entrepreneur?
business or in life, Tim.
In as an entrepreneur?
It's easy when you start having more responsibilities because you don't have the privilege, or you don't have the luxury of being unmotivated, not
Right.
motivated.
Yep.
So when you have dozens or hundreds of employees, you have a huge rent, you have a lot of responsibilities. You have no choice but to wake up earlier than everybody else, to go to bed later than everyone else, and to do the things that you have to do as a business owner, the owner of a company. So your motivation is now, when you look at your employees, knowing that they have rent and mortgages and tuition to pay and car notes.
Yep.
That's the motivation,
Yeah.
because now you're looking at other human beings and their livelihood depends on you performing. And that's a sobering responsibility. It really is. But that's how you typically stay motivated when you're a business owner. We look at some of the most successful people out here, and people always say, if I had their money, I would retire. And that's easy to say because they're probably focused on money. But at a certain point, these people are trying to achieve goals, and they have the responsibility of thousands of employees,
Yeah.
and they can't give up. They can't take days off. They have to be relentless. They have to come up with new ideas. So the motivation from a business standpoint is you have to keep this money making machine going because it matters to everybody on your team. It matters to your suppliers, your vendors, your banking relationships. You can't stop. You literally can't stop once you start this ball rolling down the hill.
And do you have any lessons for us, Tony?
Absolutely. The change is constant. You can
And is
plan. Exactly, Tim. You can plan, you can prepare for worst case scenarios, you can plan and prepare for best case scenarios. I think the lesson from an entrepreneurial standpoint is to be extremely flexible,
yes.
meaning you do plan, you forecast. How are things going to be in a year? Let's kind of plan for that, right? And let's take into account variables, right? The economy may be better or may be worse. Whatever the situation is that you're facing, that we call variables, you do plan for those. But what happens when things like COVID hit? Who could
Uh,
have predicted that supply chain across
Nobody.
the world would cease, right? Most restaurants had what we now know to be about 17 days of available funds without having a new customer. So if a customer stopped coming in today, in 17 days, the majority of restaurants in the United States would run out of money and have to close doors.
Yeah.
And I think the number was about 30 days for the average corporation. The largest corporations on earth, who had billions in revenue, suffered because, again, clients are the lifeline for your company. So as far as preparing for catastrophic times, you do as much as you can. You try to put cash on a reserve. But here's the thing, when you run into hard times in business, which everybody does, You burn through your personal savings and you burn through your corporate savings to rectify that problem. Look at business as a machine. It's a copier machine, right? And there are certain times when one part may break. And you have to swap that part out.
Yeah.
It could be an employee, it could be the wrong service, the wrong solution that you offer. You have to be able to take and replace that one part because the overall machine is more valuable than any one part.
Yeah.
And you have to make sure that that machine is well taken care of. But again, there are things that you cannot control. You focus on the things that you can, delivering a good quality service for your clients, making sure that your employees are living up to the expectations that the customers have, making sure that when the money comes in, you reinvest in your company.
Yep.
And you do all of those things, but then there are variables, outside factors that you cannot control. And when you deal with those tough times, going back to what we mentioned a little while ago, that's when you really lean on your business partners and associates and other owners that you've met over the years. And you get this together and say, let's figure this out. Because I know you're having the same problem I'm having. And sometimes you laugh together, sometimes you cry together. That's
Yep.
reality.
Yeah.
Right. But it's important for them to survive, just like it's important for you to survive. So you want to do everything you can to help them, and they'll do everything they can to help you. Because what you find out in business is even the fiercest competitors ultimately have a great deal of respect for each other.
Yes.
Because they understand what the other person is dealing with.
Yep.
They understand it. The biggest companies on earth that compete, those CEOs literally have respect for one another. They know what it's like to carry 100,000 people on payroll. They understand that. They fight because they want to win, because that's a competitive nature that all of us entrepreneurs have.
Mhm.
However, the most important thing is that we as entrepreneurs have to understand that there are a lot of us out there, and we have to connect because we are dealing with everything that our competitors and our business partners are dealing with.
Tony, thank you so much for coming on. That is just a fantastic lesson and an awesome thing to finish on. Sorry, it's only 20 minutes. And I know it kind of feels like we've just got started.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming on and talking about entrepreneurship. I think it's a subject that I think that the romantic part of it is often talked about, and I think what you've come on is really given us a real balance, and shared your insight in terms of your 30 years experience of entrepreneurship. Thank you so much. So remind people where they can get hold of you.
Thanks again, Tim, for having me. I
You're
enjoyed being
welcome.
here with you in the audience. People can reach me at tonyrkitchens.com. And here's something that's very amazing, Tim, as an entrepreneur.
Mm,
I return my own emails and my own phone calls.
fantastic.
32 years of experience tells me that that's what people want.
It is.
It is.
It is. Yeah. Yes, I totally agree with that. So remind people about your book as well and where they can get hold of it.
The
Let's
Gift of
plug
Pain.
into that.
Absolutely. The Gift of Pain is available on Amazon as well as through my website. You can also go to giftofpainbook.com, that landing page. It'll have more details, and you can purchase the audio version, the ebook version, especially for the millennials who don't like to carry paperbacks, or you can get the paperback version.
Excellent. Tony, again, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insight on entrepreneurship. It's been awesome. So much experience there that you've been able to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. It's a pleasure being with you.
You're